Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Maui, Hawaii, United States of America. Today is August 19th, 2021. Welcome to my podcast, my live stream here on Facebook. How I see it, as I see it. Shared worldwide on YouTube and SoundCloud and Lisbon, Google, Apple, so on. Good morning, wherever you may be. Good afternoon, good evening. Today, an ongoing sharing based upon yesterday, artful conversation, artful communication, and the intimacy of us. It's presented as an evolutional expression of yoga and meditation and Dhamma or Dharma. Generally thought of as sitting meditation or yoga on a mat, intensive meditation in a retreat or in a group setting, contextual mindful transformational awareness in conversation. Contextual, you and me in context, in a home, in a setting, in nature, at the beach, walking, talking, moving, lying, dancing, human beings to human beings in nature, in context, all postures, all times, all circumstances, all degrees of complexity, all states of consciousness. We're in this, the dance of intersubjective, interactive, human evolutional presence. And what we do at the confluence of presence or with other, that determines pretty much everything about who we are, how we feel, and how well do we live a lifetime based upon these moments of sacred human interaction with self and other. I had a bit of an epiphany yesterday coming back from the cardiac doctor's office of how real life is. I mean, it sounds like I'm on a psychedelic, but how unthinkably real and ever-present thisness is, this embeddedness. And there is no time off from this context, even when sleeping. The energy of the existential momentum of becoming is continually playing. The heart is beating, the blood is moving, the brain and the lungs are being oxygenated. And it's so unthinkably interrelated. And here we sit on this archipelago called your own self-identity in context to the world, continent, galaxies. And we are brought to our knees and humbled by the circumstances that we see and feel all around us. And so I present this beginning. We're in a context right now where it is so radically complicated. And the degree of mistrust that is inherent in most people's lives right now, the divisions, the divisiveness, the confusions, the contradicting data on the simplest of things. Afghanistan, the ongoing debacle and horror in my beloved Myanmar, even just to imagine at the moment the context of a day in the life of a young girl in Kabul, having to face at this very second this toxically denigrating, masculine, religiously, zealotly embedded Taliban And the perception of facing rape or death of parents or self, the desecration of opportunity, and I bring this up. I bring this up because we're in this incredible context of complexity, and I hear my heart calling, Alan, never give up. And at the same time, activate your Dhamma, activate your Dharma. Consecrate your day, your minute, your hour on the altar of your chosen religion. Make good on the promise of your holiness. Embody the dignity of a resident godliness so that it becomes natural to the very fibers of your psychological, emotional, existential anatomy. Let us be in holy regard for the direct experience of transformational Dharma awakening, the overcoming of greed, anger, and delusion, and the elevation of these timeless principles that our forefathers and mothers, our sisters and brothers, and the previous gods and goddesses and nature and animals all collectively brought forth. The symphony of human rights, the symphony of conscience, the holiness of truth and dignity and something larger than materiality, the wonderment of the spirit, call it what you will. We are in that great profession of God. And to me, that is where I pray. That is where I occupy as much as I have the courage to engage that safety, if you will, that altar of my own Dharma, my own Jesus, my own Christianity, my own Allah, my own Buddha, my own liberation in process to the liberation of all of us together in this great symphony of God. Right there, I refuse to participate to the extent that I can mindfully intercept my conditioning to self-denigrate through judgment and blame and fear and materiality and shame and worry and doubt and greed and delusion and blame them, the narration of them not doing it well enough, not doing it right enough. And I hear that noise, I hear that conditioning, and I go, Alan, chill, dude. Bring it home, man. Bring it home. The moments of our lives, the moments of your life are precious, so precious, that regardless of what you see in terms of complexity, come home into the sanctity of your yoga, your meditation of called artful communication, the intimacy of us. It's always right there. Heightened quality conversations. Now, let me go through a list of points that I may have made yesterday, and many of them will be duplicated. This is just a spontaneous sharing. Some of the components, if you will, of what I consider to be artful communication and the intimacy of us. First of all, the quality of arrival, of showing up, of a sacred act. Secondly, the physics of intimacy and shared space, buoyancy, intrigue, theater, playfulness, satire, juiciness, interesting energy. 3, the quality that I bring forth rather than overcoming obstacles or overcoming inabilities, the concept of religious or dharmic rebirthing. Not a rebirth after death, but a rebirthing as a process within the evolution of life in context, together in an artful conversation where we're playfully and theatrically rebirthing the energy into heightened degrees of call it spiritual or religious jazz together. We're making music. We're making goddesses. We're making God. Isn't that the living, breathing Holy Spirit that we live and breathe and pray to? That we are the very thing that we anoint on the walls of our own church, our own cathedral. How do we embody the holy? Rebirthing. 4, I didn't get into this very much yesterday, but perhaps a little bit more today. And I find this particularly compelling, is what I call wisdom formations, auditory frequencies set in syntax, auditory frequencies, etymologies, felt experiential definitions of meaning and purpose that have tonality prints on them of meaning. Wisdom formations. Meditation isn't just about happiness, obviously, or calmness, or stillness. It's the ability to see that in the invisibility of consciousness, this is just my take, the invisibility of consciousness, that there are states of consciousness like hands on clay that sculpt and create contrast, create discernible forms and formations. I call that sculpting, cognitive formation, sculpting. And in that sense, we can more deliberately play discernible and repetitive forms of music that are psychologically wise, emotionally intelligent, and spiritually important to repeat, if you will. So wisdom formations implies a Dhamma literacy, a quality of cognitive fluency, that wisdom is a priority in the space between us, in the artful communication, in the intimacy of us. Of course, it begs the question, what is wisdom? And that is a very complicated and curious phenomena for me. You know, you're walking down a forest path and there is a perceived obstacle on that path, and maybe a rock or a stump. And all of a sudden you have the choice to either jump the stump, or you have the ability or the choice to walk around the stump. Perhaps it was a little bit too high in the assessment to jump over it, and you just wanted to walk around it and put your finger on top of it and feel its texture and move around and keep on walking. Or you perceived it to be the formation perhaps of a snake, and it's really just a stump, and you were taken in by an illusion, and you stop and you're poised and you make contact and you decide, no, this is not something to jump over. This is something to calmly walk back from, perhaps even run from. I bring this up because there's so many dimensions to the word wisdom. The wisdom of knowing what to hold, the wisdom of knowing what to release, the efficaciousness of a state of mind or a thought or a pattern of speech or a set of actions. How skillful were they? Did they deliver the beneficial results that you had intended? So wisdom isn't just an event that we form, but a gliding of different states of consciousness along the topography of speech, thought, and action. And there's a constant sense of intimate assessment, mindful reflection on the profitability or the beneficial nature or the detrimental nature of the cognitive frequency of thought. Thoughts are energy. Sound are frequencies embedded with tonality and meaning. Truth isn't just something that we read on a page, obviously. Truth-telling is a cognitive formation. And so in a way, we're all composers and sculptors and actors and producers and directors of consciousness. And so wisdom formations, I'll get more into that. 5, uncontrived naturalness. There's just something about the effortless free flow of spontaneous presence in the company of you in this artful dance of who knows what, talking about Dr. Anthony Fauci or the Chinese virus or the desecration of the boys and girls in Hong Kong and the imprisonment of their mothers and their fathers because they decided to speak up for human rights, the lockdowns in Melbourne and Sydney and Byron Bay, the police and the army on the streets, the vaccines benefit, breakthrough cases, the efficacy of the vaccine. We can't vaccinate ourselves out of the pandemic. Who to believe, when to believe, uninvited, re-invited, so many different things. Can you fly? Will we be able to fly? No more trains, no more buses, no more international flights unless you get a vaccine every 13 seconds of your life until you die from the vaccine. There's so much noise out there. Uncontrived naturalness, a way to play with information that isn't so diabolically always right or always wrong or making them wrong or making them right, to dance and play a little bit in the ease of natural being. That's all I'm saying here. Now, I'm bringing this talk up today as something available to all of us, wherever we are, as a form, a very valid form, a powerful form of yoga. The asana of artful communication. The asana, a discernible formation of artful communication and the intimacy of us. A meditation using the power of expression, the power of words, the power of language, the power of tonality, the power of intention, the power of space, the power of frequency. So, uncontrived natural, emotional, psychological, and spiritual aesthetics. Emotional, spiritual, psychological, Dharma aesthetics, artful communication. Aesthetics are that conscious engagement in the way in which you choose to bathe or shower, touch your face with soap or a washcloth, the way you look at yourself in the mirror, the beautification of you, aesthetics, the way in which you dress and undress, the way in which you touch yourself, the way in which you touch someone you love, the way in which you look, the way in which you caress, the way in which we move and intone and walk and even drive and buy and shop and play and dance and create aesthetics, the beauty of a more natural rhythm infused with artfulness and playfulness. And even if you need to go out there in the heavy metal infernal majesty of your burning soul and the lust for evil in that surreal dystopian landscape called my moment of choice right now, do what you need to do to lay bare the truth of your life. Emotional aesthetics. And I can't encourage enough the playfulness and the beauty of playing in this uncontrived naturalness, but bringing into formation the artfulness and style in the way in which we do, think, speak, and act. I think it would be number 7, deliberate cognitive formations, mind state meditative articulations. Just call it articulations. Articulations are sonnets, they're hymns, they're letters, they're words. Deliberate cognitive formations. Mind state play. Mind state play. The asana. I'm a fan of yoga, and I'm taking yoga, the Dharma of yoga, the the asana, and bringing them into interior formations. What is the deliberate yogic asana? Not the physical asana of warrior or sun salutation or any of them, but the deliberate asana of authenticity. The deliberate, meditative, mindfully experiential asana of sexiness. The spontaneity of the rhythms of one's dignified, embodied love of being in flesh, in context of intimate touch with self and you and other, whatever the choices are. That asana, the asana of satirical playfulness. So we're in artful conversations, and the intimacy of us as a meditation to further deliberately create formations, building blocks, sonic, foundational, felt experiences that you can rest on, climb on, build on, walk through, breathe into, be nurtured by. Deliberate formations of consciousness. What are the chosen colors on your cognitive palette? I've spoken about that to my own heart for so long. The color of dignity, the asana of authenticity, the color of patience, the asana of revolution, the color of freedom, the asana of courage. What is the formation of integrity? Where do we locate in a moment of being triggered a sense of resolve to no, I refuse to participate in the state of mind called blame. Rather, I'm going to root my sense of identity and integrity in the transformational formation, the deliberate formation of seeing this event that could easily be triggering fear, anger, judgment, blame, even violence. I want to see it as an opportunity to transform myself into greater beauty, power, strength, wisdom, and freedom. That's the skill of the yogi and the meditator. Deliberate cognitive formations, mind state play. I used to watch my daughter in the early days, loved art, play, music, theater, filmmaking. There wasn't much that she didn't want to dabble in. Perhaps it was my way of trying to create artful conditions for her, I'm not sure. But it was always interesting to me to see what she would choose to draw, left to her own devices, and how she would go about that drawing. And what she would choose as a color, if you will, on the palette, and how she would go about mixing colors, what ratios to get what color. It was always interesting to me to see that level of deliberate mind state play. Choice making is a nanosecond entity within conversation. Anything is possible at any given moment if we intercept conditioned patterns of predictable, repetitive languages, stories, and sentences. You can tell the same story, and you can remove the same old story from it by vitalizing the old with the vitality of something new and authentic. Listening, emotionality, participation, duration, There's something so precious, just reflecting, to be with someone, or even in a small group, with a quality of listening is so, I want to say vital, but it's so pure. I'm just reflecting back. One of the things I noticed living in Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia, during the war, the final year of the war, and then eventually in Sarajevo, many times post-war, especially among my Bosnian Muslim friends in Sarajevo that lived under the siege, their capacity, this wasn't a projection because I went lots, their capacity to listen with a quality of, I don't know a better word, the quality of feeling. Listening with feeling, listening with empathy, listening with, I dare use the exaggeration, totality. But I've never seen any beings come that close to totality. I'm not sure, I didn't study the conditions of what they went through. The rupture of security, the rupture of familiarity, the rupture of health and family and longevity and trust. But the value of presence. Point one, the quality of, I'm here. We talk about showing up, but I mean really reverential, holy, MDMA-induced, contextual, psychedelic, silent, yogic. You know, when you go to the mat, when you go to your husband, when you go to your daughter, you are there. And you can feel that momentum to be elsewhere. I'm not judging that elsewhereness momentum. We live in multiple conditioned oceans. It's not just one ocean. There are a lot of different currents in my soul. Some want to live, some want to die at times. Some want hope, some want peace. Some want perfect, tantric, beautiful intimacy. Some want erotic thunder. I mean, there's so many different appetites, and some of them are so contradictory, but I don't cherish sacred lies. What I'm pointing to here is this quality of listening both to yourself, trusting and investing in the reverential naturalness of that which is coming through. I dare you to say what you're going to say, but can you listen to someone else who's sharing a sacred secret with something so important without the rush to anoint it with your own information, with the need to get onto something more beautiful, with the need to move beyond into your story and your narrative? How well do you listen? How well do you communicate safety, stillness, take down the walls of time? I am here with you. I am the doula for liberation. I will dance with you with ever demons that come up. I am here to learn with you, to grow with you, to love with you. I am here together in the intimacy of us. You know. And listening, language, words, language, words. In Burma, their struggle for freedom is a revolution of the spirit. It's a revolution of consciousness. And their weapon of choice are emotions. Not the gun, not the grenade, not the drone, not the violent threat of torture, persecution, rape, or assassination. It's the power of the word. The power of the word. Some people say it's just rock and roll, as Nick Cave said, but it gets you right down in your soul. You've got to just keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Push that sky away. It gets you right down in your soul. Words. The words of your rock and roll that get you right down in your soul. I've encouraged my daughter and people I love and know to study language. My teachers in Burma, blessed was I, that they instilled in me the art of the question to ask myself as my best teacher, what do I mean by the word and the words that I use? That was a repetitive, beautiful invitation to self-question oneself on not just the fluency of how we speak, but the words that we choose to point to intimate, interior or exterior or both experiences and represent that experience, represent those emotions, represent those feelings, complex as they may be, with truthfulness and appropriateness and respect and with intonation and with meaning and with heart. How well do you do your art of the heart through language and words? I was blessed with Mahasi Sayadaw and the late Sayadaw U Pandita, a master of language, multiple languages, but also deep into definition and meaning with a deep, those of you who know him, an incredible regard for the embodiment of the word yogi. Yogi to me, among many definitions, the embodiment of deep, intelligent experience. Like if I'm my lungs right now, my lungs are experiencing oxygen. And it's going right into my heart and through my arteries and my veins, just like it's going into your own brain. And it's oxygenating our being. Yoga is the oxygenation of our wisdom, our freedom, our compassion, our love. You can't do an asana in form unless you have the asana of the formless, but a clear relationship to formlessness and language. Study energy through the use of words. Shape, sculpt, and rebirth consciousness through the changing formations of words like hands-on consciousness. Words are hands-on consciousness. They represent intimacy, the intimacy of us. I could go on about all this, but I'm going to stop here at the final point of 10. Again, not in any particular order. Authenticity, originality, coupled with spontaneity, the spiritual treasure of Dharma rock and roll, of Dharma jazz, the spiritual treasure, the healing power of Dharma rock and roll, of Dharma jazz, the healing power of Dharma-infused spoken word, artfully played between you and me in this incredibly intimate, sexy, illuminating, beautiful field of shared erotic space. making that field so Rumi-like, so trans-Rodin-like, so infused with our goddess of the Buddha and the Buddha to be. Anoint shared space. Make it so profound. It's our Broadway play. It's a rehearsal. We're going to lose it on the stage of our own Woodstock. You're up now. Give it to us. Give us your star-spangled banner. So wild, improvisational, original authenticity that's playfully brought into the quality of you and me with heightened regard for the physics of intimacy and this interactive, intersubjective shared space of uncontrived naturalness with high regard for emotional, spiritual aesthetics and the deliberate cognitive formation of mind state play with listening and intentionality and tonality. And may we do what we do as freely as possible and take off the projection of need for applause or for standing ovations or to think that we need to free someone else from their own suffering. Do what we do because we love it. Speak from your heart is because you love it. You're in the yoga studio because you love it, and it's difficult at times, but keep on, keep on pushing on. Never give up. But please, may I invite you to invite me, to invite our friends and family in this time of complexity, in the backdrop of this weird context that we're all embedded in and on this precious planet, whether it be from climate chaos and eco-grief and eco-trauma to the collapse of ecosystems and the potential disruption of food chain and electricity and Wi-Fi and internet, mobilization of flights, vaccines, no flights, with vaccine, all the various complexities of our world today. Will we survive? Will I live? Maybe you're dealing with mortality and death right now. I don't know. The context is intense. Remember that we have choice. And the sanctity of the meditation practice of artful communication with the intimacy of you and me. All it takes is one other to embark upon that timeless, beautiful, transformational wisdom of you and me in dharmic, artful communication. And in that space, we do all the various things that we would do in meditation alone. We do it together in the Ubuntufication of shared space, the transformational beauty. I cannot be who I am without you. And what will I bring? What will you bring to that artful interaction called the intimacy of us? So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a beautiful day, God willing. See you tomorrow. And remember, as much as you can, as much as you choose, to live your holiness. Today could very well be the first and last day for you or for me or for those that we love. Don't hold back. Keep pushing forward. And come from your heart, come from your soul. And from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. See you tomorrow.